So here we are in the midst of watching a clip on YouTube under the name Selfless, and no doubt, bigger picture, we're in the midst of life, somewhere between misery at one end of a spectrum and ecstatic joyfulness, to quote the extremities, but probably somewhere around the middle, in between curiosity, comfort, a sense of enoughness in the day, perhaps plans and hopes about a future imagined, and regrets about the past, or perhaps conversely seeking to re-establish feelings and thoughts once experienced in the past, in the present, by listening to this talk perhaps, or to move along a path that brings us to previous experiences of happiness, peace and joyfulness in the future, somewhere in the midst of applying meaning to this thing we call life for human beings. I myself find myself to be in the midst of a day off. The spring sun is wonderfully coming through the window, and it's just nice to have a moment to sit down and talk into a camera to an imaginary audience, and to attempt to be congruent in speech about direct experience. What is my existence being at this time? And this question of existence, of course, is governed by all of the questions that surround and inform everything I've said so far: past, future, narrative, hopes, plans, regrets, remorse, misery and ecstasy. And when I speak of these terms, it is through direct experience, from direct experience of having known sometimes elongated periods in all of these emotions, stages and states. It's been a colourful existence, a rainbow that spans black to white, with beiges and greys, browns, yellows, oranges, reds, blues, purples, pinks and so on, everything. And this is the philosophical stance of the overview of the human experience, really, that we are all bound by the essential nature of the experience of the human being. We have the opposable thumbs which enable us to build, have enabled us to build and to destroy. And we have the mind and the questioning phenomena and the use of language in order to undertake an exploration of how we feel our way through the experience of being human and through life. And these questions and these emotions, they give rise to what we call fears or concerns about meaning. And we apply all kinds of meaning. Our world is full of philosophy. There's the philosophy of nihilism, that there is no meaning, and in that there is a meaning, and meaninglessness becomes the meaning. And then there is the spontaneity of the moment, and how do we feel, how do we think, how are we experiencing one of the highest forms of knowing life as a human that there can be, the direct experience of present tense, spontaneous direct experience, where really it's all happening and nothing is happening outside of that except in the way in which time moves through the thought structure. Past and future exist only as present tense thoughts, ideas and imaginative tones based on previous experiences about all of that. This is the nature of mind. Mind is essentially the current activity. It's not a specific phenomena, not a specific organ or thing, though we usually call it, oh, my brain said to me. Perhaps we might say, well, my brain said to me, or that's what my brain told me. But really, if we look at the nature of mind, the way in which humans experience mind, and of course, through the facilities of meaning and motion and movement and the energetic sense of being a person, we live out of the top half of our brains and use the mind to process what it is, how it is, when it is and why it is we're experiencing life in the way that we are. So whether we apply meaning to life because we have religious or spiritual beliefs, because these have risen out of the human beings need to understand not only the meaning that we have now, but whether there is meaning thereafter, because we know life to be a finite experience for the human being, or life as we experience it directly, we assume to be, we suggest might not be a finite experience. And we like to invest time and practice in that. And these philosophies have created groups and tribes and leaders and institutions and hierarchies and beautiful things and terrible things and metaphysics and subversions and flow and restriction and war and peace and all of that, and the mystical and the magical, the mythical and the metaphysical. And here we are trying to figure all of this out. And of course, at the end of the day, at the end of this talk, there's no figuring it out. There's just what is, how we think and feel about it, the ways in which our culture and our family and our time frame in history has applied meaning to that, and how we've introverted some of that and how we've expunged some of that. And we take it as it comes and how it is and try and find happiness. All of it is a search for truth with a capital T, not my subjective truth. Not little old me, well, that's my truth and I'll stick to it. Who cares about that? Feel free to have a subjective truth, but that story must lead us to, if the undertaking for subjective truth is authentic, to a search for a larger truth. And that's not just our truth in this locale, in this postcode, and in this country and in this nation and in this period in history, but great truth, absolute truth, axiomatic truth, the axioms of that which is indefatigable and ultimately defined by its indefinability. That is, there is one sun in the middle of the universe, and the mathematic axiom of one being one are absolute truths. And we can say, to some extent, from our point of view, the way in which we experience the world through our senses and the thoughts and feelings we have about them, that seeming stance we appear to take as a human person from this specific locality that I seem to be, a usual word for this is I or me, that this seems to be the axiom on which this particular person and conditioned personality seems to be experiencing a world of many different things. But the univocity of meaning and the univocity of that being that I am is that we are all experiencing the same beingness. The quality of being is a common experience to human animals. It is in this that we are a world tribe, we are one tribe, we are a world people, and there are no limits and there are no borders. If that becomes our intuition and our recognition, then that can be our starting point from moving out of the house or from under our tarpaulin in the morning in order to experience a day which will have everything that's been mentioned previously to this statement about what's been previously mentioned in this talk included in it. That is the dance between misery and ecstasy, where most of us at some point during the day will find the balance in between the two of those, or better still, the balance will find us, and we will know what it is to be a human being in the midst of this mystery called life. Thanks. I am empty.